Good afternoon or good morning. Hi, my name is Miss Lenox, and today we are going to learn about figurative language, more specifically similes and metaphors. Now, if you will get this piece of paper out and make sure you have it out in front of you, make sure you have a pen and or pencil. And if you want a highlighter to make things easier. So take a look at the top box. What exactly is figurative language? A lot of times authors and in English, we don't speak literally. Not everything's going to say the sky is blue, Miss Lennox's dress is yellow. Sometimes we use different language to make things just sound better, and that's where figurative language comes in. And so there's two types that we're going to learn today. So take a look at your top box. The first one is a simile. Now, the first point of a simile is it has like or as, but just because a sentence has like or as doesn't exactly make it a simile. So it has to do something and have like or as, and that thing is, and it starts with a C and ends with umpire, which means compare. And so a simile is something that compares two different things while using like or as. Okay, look down at your bottom. The second one is a metaphor. It does not use like or as, but it still compares two different things. So if it doesn't have like or as, and yet it still compares two different things, it is a metaphor. All right, so now that we have those two things, you can refer back to this as much as you need to because your examples and definitions are right here. So let's take a look at number one. Sunbeams were golden threads piercing through the clouds. Okay, so is that a simile or metaphor? So I want you to pause the video for a second. I want you to figure out whether it's a simile or metaphor. All right, so looking at number one, if you answered a metaphor, you are absolutely correct. There is not like or as. So what exactly is being compared? Remember, we have to have two things and it has to be comparing. So the first thing is sunbeams and the second thing is golden threads. So it's comparing sunbeams to golden threads. So what in the world does that mean? Why compare golden threads and sunbeams? Well, if you've ever looked up at the sky and you've seen these sun rays shining down through the clouds, that's exactly what it means. Small rays of sun shining through the clouds. That's just a fancy way of saying that instead of simply saying that. So that one is a metaphor. So look at number two. Mountain goats leaped like dancers from rock to rock. I want you to take a second and you're going to pause this video and I want you to tell me whether it's simile or metaphor, and I want you to underline what two things are being compared, and I want you to take a stab at what you think that means. So pause the video and answer number two. Okay, number two, mountain goats leaped like dancers from rock to rock. So if you got simile, you were correct. If you looked at the sentence and saw that it has like, that should be your hint that it could possibly be a simile. But remember, just because it says like or as does not mean that it is automatically a simile. It has to have like or as, and it has to compare two different things. So now that we see that it has like, let's see if it compares two different things. Well, it says mountain goats leaped like dancers. So in my brain, I'm thinking that they're comparing goats to dancers. So you should have mountain goats and dancers underlined. But how in the world can goats leap like dancers? What does that mean? Well, if you think about dancers, especially ballet, they're super graceful. And so maybe these goats are super gracefully jumping and they're not jumping roughly. So that's what I think it means. So I want you to take a look at number three. We're going to do this one together really quickly. So the butterflies drifted as lazily as falling leaves. So I want you to take a second and I want you to think, look for your keywords. In my brain, I don't see like, but I do see as two different times. So it could be a simile. So let's see if it's comparing two different things. The butterflies drifted as lazily as falling leaves. So I think butterflies are being compared to leaves, which would make it a simile or metaphor. I think it would make it a simile. Okay, so how do butterflies compare to leaves? Well, if you think of the word lazy, it's not very energetic, and so these butterflies are drifting lazily like falling leaves. So maybe they're falling slowly and they're just drifting, because if you've ever seen a butterfly, they don't flap their wings fast like a bird. They're really, really slow and gentle and graceful. So number three is a simile, butterflies and leaves. Okay, number four, bright flowers were jewels gleaming in the sunlight. So take a second to think, is it a simile or metaphor? Do we see like or as? No, so it could possibly be a metaphor. What two things is it comparing? I think it's comparing flowers and jewels. So those two things need to be underlined. But what does that mean? So bright flowers were jewels gleaming in the sunlight. So I think that thinking about a jewel, which is like in a diamond or in some piece of jewelry, and especially if the sun's shining on it and the flowers are colorful, that means that these colorful flowers were maybe bright. So number 4 is a metaphor, and then you should have flowers and jewels underlined and that the colorful flowers were bright. So this is what you're going to do now. I want you to turn over to the back page. There are 5 different questions. You are going to pause this video, and I want you to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When you are done with this, there is a whole nother sheet of practice that you can do. It is 16 different questions, and it is the exact same thing. So you're going to look at it, you're going to figure out whether it's a simile or metaphor, you're going to label it, then you need to figure out what 2 things are being compared, you're going to underline it, and then there's multiple choice answers, and you're going to try to figure out what exactly that piece of figurative language means. So your mission is to figure out 3 different things. So you're going to pause this video and do them now. Okay, so by now you should have finished at least questions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and if you wanted to, the whole other worksheet on questions 1 through 16. So hopefully this cleared some things up for you. Similes and metaphors can be extremely difficult if you don't know, and a lot of times too many students and too many of you guys don't exactly understand, so that's what makes it difficult. So there are a few things that you need to absolutely remember. Similes and metaphors both compare things. Similes, just because you see like or as in a sentence does not automatically make it a simile. You need to look for your keywords, but then you also need to see what 2 things is it comparing. So it has to have those keywords if it's a simile, but similes and metaphors both compare 2 different things. So don't just choose it just because you think so. Make sure it's actually comparing 2 different things. So hopefully you will use these packets and you will use this worksheet to help you nail down similes and metaphors just a little bit more, and I hope this helps. And I want you to have a great rest of the day and get some rest and have a great day.